D. Black. I'm glad my most outstanding accomplishment is being a drummer. I think that's good. I just want to tell you a little bit. When I got through with my little vacation and career in 1957, wonderful time over there, I came back and Clarence M. Danley appointed me band director at Borden Junior High School, and he said, "Harper than music now. He's very cheap." He does George Hammond's hair too. And so I went to Atlanta and bought a wig, a very expensive wig. And in those days, you had to have spirit gum, and you put glue, and it took you 3 hours to get ready to go to work. So I got there, and the students were looking at me kind of strange, and I was a podium conducting. Well, what happened is they were kind of warm in the band room, and the spirit gum dried out. And my sideburns rolled up like window shades. And they fell off the stand, dropped their instruments. I took that home thing to my mother, and I said, "Look, put this in the trash." I talked to my good friend Art Freeling out there, was still alive. He said, "Look, without hair, you're Mr. Black. With hair, who are you?" So here I am, Mr. Black. Anyway, the ones of you that did not live in the early days of the giant Lee Lanier halftime, you really missed it. I mean to tell you, that was not only fun, but good education in some of the shows that I wish I could say our directors were putting on today, but they're not. But those were great shows. And it was kind of a conflict back and forth, you know. We put something on big and just about blow up Crampton Bowl, and Johnny would decide, well, I'm going to blow it up next Friday, so he can get something bigger. So one of my bright ideas was, we had Carl Stevens, our good friend, was announcing the Lanier halftime show, so he couldn't be there one day. And I said, well, we'll put his voice on tape, I'll run a big line up to the press box, and we'll just play his comments. He said, "You think that'll work?" I don't trust it. No, it's technique. They won't know. They think he's up there. So I hadn't recorded now, but Binion would give me the signal and I'd play the next segment. Well, when he got to the first segment, instead of pressing the off button on the recorder, I hit the little remote control which stopped the motor, which turns the tapes. So he said, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Stevens. Welcome you to Crampton Bowl and another show they read your little new halftime show." So much for fooling the people. He wasn't live up there. Now to Dr. Long's big show. I have one show on him and one on another. You can tell which is the worst. I know you know which is the worst. But it wasn't Dr. Long. He decided he wanted to do some show that he called Mount Vesuvius on the field. I mean, a huge mountain. Now, when Johnny went to get his props, he didn't go to a store that sells props, you know, where you buy a fuse that burns 5 minutes per. He got the big stuff. He bought a cargo parachute and had it painted beautifully, just like a mountain. And it was just way on the top. So Binion said, "Is he going to make smoke coming out?" I said, "Yeah, I think I saw some boy go underneath it. What's he going to use?" I said, "I don't look like to me one of these industrial railroad grenades. I mean, these fire, what am I trying to say, flare. Red flare." And he says, "Does Johnny know how long that thing burns?" I said, "I don't think he does." So we started, and here comes the red fire out. It was beautiful until we couldn't see from one side of the field to the other for this red haze. Now this began to get in our clothes. When I went home, my underwear was red. And it got all over the place. And so I thought, this is really bad. So the funny thing about it, I looked down on the field, and here comes a Lee student. He had taken off all of his clothes from the head up. He had that thing in his hand, and he crawled out from under the parachute and disappeared behind the stands. You remember that? And that wasn't the first time the mayor warned us about blowing that place up. All right, now here's a big story. I'm going to have to be careful how I say this. One time, Binion was big on big shows, and we had seen Charlton Heston in this Ben-Hur. He said, "We're going to do Ben-Hur." I said, "You going to do Ben-Hur here?" I got some Herald trumpets, and we're building a little two-wheel carriage, and I said, "We're going to get this horse." In those days, the Crampton Bowl had a little cinder track all around it. And said, Tommy Money, the drum major, he's going to be carried around that track, and then we're going to have all appropriate music. I said, "Well, all right." So we went out went there for rehearsal, and this veterinarian showed up with a pregnant mare. And that poor thing looked awful. So we hooked him up to this two-wheel thing and started around the track. Well, he took off like a fire engine. And Tommy Money was just hanging on for dear life. So Tommy Binion said, look, we got to do something about this. That's going to kill that guy. He said, I don't want to get back on that thing. So the band parent, who's a veterinarian, said, look, I'll give him a shot, calm him down, and there won't be any problems. So we said, fine. So we did. The next scene switches to just before halftime. We're up in the stands, ready to go down the field. Here come three of the Lanier boys up from Mr. Brennan. We got terrible news. Said, that old mare's asleep, and we can't wake her up. He said, what do you mean that's our whole show? I said, I don't know. We've tried it. We kicked it, pulled it. We can't get it away. So one bright engineering student, I'm sure, Lanier said, have you got some long jumper cables? And somebody said, you know, pull your car up to the back side of the mule, and we're fixing to get him to come to life. So I won't go into the procedure that they use, but fire shot out of that area of the place. And the mare came to life. And he got hold of Tom Money, and they were going around that thing, and it was on two wheels, and he was hanging on for dear life. And we ran around, we thought it was great. And just as we came around that curve section, all of the lead cheerleaders had just lined up, looking at the show. Well, unfortunately, just as he came around that long curve, the poor thing got a terrible case of diarrhea. And he just went, and got everybody. I think we wrote several letters of apology. That was horrible, wasn't it? One of Benny's favorite joke. I do want to just mention the things we've been involved in, because Michael got me on this thing, and I call him bad names every day. We have really gone through. We went back to tapes, real tapes that were made before tapes were made. The first tape on here we're going to play for you out to Choir, 1957. I started playing it, had no right channel. So I called a friend of mine in California and said, you knew Britain while he was still alive? Well, in 1957, he said, no, we didn't have stereo. We didn't have a stereo. What invented? I said, are you sure? Yeah. So I said, what am I going to do? I just got one side of music. So with my engineering equipment, I took the left channel, put it to the right and left channel. Then it sounded kind of toothy, so I added 35% reverb, and it sounded pretty good. So Johnny, I got your things up pretty good. The people have heard all these.
So I can appreciate all that he's accomplished. You're never with Johnny in the length of time that you don't learn something. I have fond memories. Now today, Jimmy Simpson called. He didn't know that anything about the reunion. And so he wanted to tell everybody here that he's been up, Dr. Simpkins up at University of North Alabama as head of the music department now for 30 years. And he wanted to relate to all the you folks how much the John Long, the lead band, and all that meant not only to him, but all the other many people who became band directors went in the music profession as a direct result of what happened here at Lee High School. Kevin Carlton was the first principal here, and you would think when school was out that he would want to get away from kids, but we had an easy chair down at the store, and Carlton would come down there and sit in that easy chair. And he says, Darby says, I don't know what I've got in this John Long. He says, I may have the world's greatest band director. I may have somebody that's just short of being shipped out to Price Mill Hospital in Tuscaloosa. Because John was ambitious. And the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people, the successful people wouldn't do all the things that unsuccessful people are not willing to do. So John Long has set us an example. All of us, we've all richer in our lives for having had the long experience. And if we apply ourselves in a manner which John's taught all of us to do, in music, you learn a lot of things other than music. All of you learn discipline, you learn self-discipline, you learn coordination, mind, nerves, and muscles, you learn teamwork, you learn leadership, you learn self-worth, you learn things that made you better employees or better employers, probably makes better husbands and wives. Now, my wife never did, she wasn't able to be here tonight. She had a previously planned situation with the family up in North Alabama. But, in the band, they put that trombone line out on the front line. And my wife was the majorette. They put them 8 or 10 spaces out in front of the trombone line, and we had to fix all these torn up trombones where these boys trip all over themselves, not watching where they're going. So. And I tell her that maybe had she played a clarinet or sax or a trumpet or flute or something, that she might walk 8 or 10 spaces behind me and say, "Yes, my Lord, she hasn't made any progress in that area." And never do. But I never will forget when the band, I forgot what's in Chicago, I believe it was, where was it Chicago, John, where you, and anyway, we wanted to have a parade. Well, the city father says we can't have a parade for that. And so they said, we're not going to give you any police escort or anything like that. So we went ahead and had a Capitol Music parade. And the people, if all of you remember, the folks lined up on Bell Street all the way out back past Maxwell Air Force Base. And it was one of the biggest parades in Montgomery had. Betty Darnell was on the hood of the Capitol Music station wagon at the front. And it's best to remember the mayor gave her the key to the city. And a lot of lives have been changed. And all of us are grateful for what's happened with the lead band and the experiences that we've all had with it. So it's our pleasure over the years to serve you. And these kids that go through the musical experience, they go out in the world better folks than what they would be without it. So Capitol Music is very, very appreciative of all the business that you gave us when I first went in business. There are a lot of businesses that don't survive the first 2 or 3 years. And the lead band, it was best to remember everybody in the trumpet section had a brand new Constellation trumpet. The saxophones were several pair of saxes. And then the trombones, I believe they were cons, were they not tried? But anyway, everybody bought top-of-the-line horns. And then today, I don't know that he could get by with what he got by with, how late that band rehearsed. I don't think there's a single family in the neighborhood ever made a complaint. So Capitol Music appreciates being a part of it. And I know we all feel like we're all a team together because we have such a great leader. And all the other leaders have come along. I'm running out of time here, so we're appreciative for everybody being here, and thank you very much for all that's been accomplished in the lead band.
John Long, we knew him as John Long back before he got his medical degree, and became Dr. John Long. And Mr. Darby, you're wrong. There was one complaint. I think it was the morning we played the fanfare at 5:30. I think the people back in the apartments called the police, but I'm not sure. Yeah, they did. 1944, John was at Gunnersville High School. While he was a senior in high school, his band director got drafted. So he became his own high school band director. Following his graduation, he too got drafted and spent the rest of his Army career playing in military bands. After the Army, he enrolled in, John, I hate to use it, Jack State, and where, while he was there, he was the band director at Jacksonville High School, and while at the college, was helping with the marching band, of course, and teaching private lessons on the side. Became the band director at Blount County High School in Aniana in 1949, was there 49 and 50, and was in Fort Payne from 50 to 55, and he came to lead. And no, ma'am, I did not have anything to do with rocking your cabin in Camp Rotary. In 1955, T.C. Carlton was instrumental in luring him away from Fort Payne to start the Robbie E. Lee Band, and the rest is history. Robbie Lee, he founded the Montgomery Youth Symphony. He had national championship bands. He had consecutive ones in state contests. I hate to say that I was in the band to make it the first 2. And we were playing Fingal's Cave until he got excited. And Millie and I just lost it somewhere. Lee had traditionally the highest medal count of any band in the district. He was selected as one of the top 10 high school band directors in the U.S. by the Instrumentalist magazine. He designed our current band room here and had serious input into designing the auditorium. Anybody who's ever played in that auditorium knows that it has outstanding acoustics. He was commander of Post VFW Post 96 and had society dance bands here in Montgomery. I've heard you play. You're a great United States, Canada, Europe, Mexico. 1997, he was elected to the Alabama Bandmasters Hall of Fame. He was the first active bandmaster to be elected. He received the National Kappa Kappa Psi Distinguished Service to Music Award in '79. In '84, he was selected as the Outstanding Music Educator of the Year in Alabama. The first person to be so honored. He was selected Who's Who in America. February '96, he was inducted into the National Band Association Hall of Fame of Distinguished Band Conductors, which is the highest honor that anyone can bestow on an American bandmaster. 1998, he was awarded the Silver Gold Medal of Honor from the Sousa Foundation and the Blue-Gray Association dedicated the nationally televised Blue-Gray game to him for his 42 years of service as halftime director. How many people have ever been in the Blue-Gray game? How many people have ever froze their tail off? Yeah. Troy State University has 2 buildings named after him, and the 1998 Board of Trustees of Troy State named the School of Music John M. Long School of Music. A couple of years ago, they dedicated the bathroom facility at the band practice field to Cobb Alexander. So we have 2 John M. Long buildings and 1 Cobb Alexander building on the Troy campus. Ladies and gentlemen, he's known throughout the world as Dr. Long. Those of us that had the pleasure of playing under him and to know him, I now present to you the Father.
Some of the most wonderful friends and people that I've ever had the privilege to know, I met here. Tonight, I would like to talk to all of you for an hour, and I won't do. I'll stay at night till the cows go home. And thank you for the wonderful memories that you've given Marilyn, my child bride of 55 years in July. The students I had here were the most brightest and the most talented students in the world who made me look good. Every one of them was smarter than me. I learned from them so many things. I learned about everything I taught them. They taught me a lot more because they were really, really wonderful. I remember the football games, the contests. I remember the parades and all the wonderful things we did. And it's an honor and a pleasure and a privilege to be here. And any success that I had at the school was due to the students and your parents and the supporters that supported the school. Because they were absolutely the most wonderful people that I've ever known. And I still think of them and I love them. And when I see my other queen, Miss Hammond, and her 4 boys here, it makes me want to cry because, oh, well, you know I love you. What a wonderful person you are. I'm not going to mention anybody else, but you're very special. Me, and you've got those 4 wonderful boys, and all the other parents, I feel the same way. And I want to thank all the students, the parents, the faculty members, supporters, because they were the ones that made this our program. I want to thank you all for your many kindnesses and thoughtfulness that you've always shown me. You can bet your bottom dollar, if you ever need me, I'll be there, because I love you very much. Thank you very much.
Let's see now. Skip says that. Okay. See, I already had it worked out. We were doing good. And then Michael handed me this. So I had to rearrange. Okay. Next up, Dr. David McCullough is Professor of Music and Director of Bands at Campbellsville University in Kentucky. Dr. McCullough graduated from Lee in 1970 and received several music degrees in performance and education leading to his doctorate. Dr. McCullough, let's see, I remember the first thing that they said here, he told, let's see, this is to introduce, I'm sorry, Tom Borden. Tom's sitting to my right here. He told him, he said, David, don't feel bad. A lot of people don't have any talent. Ladies and gentlemen, David McCullough.
Distinguished honor to be able to introduce my high school band director. Tom Borden was director of bands here from 1965 to 1980. I came to Lee High School in the beginning of his third year. My older brother, John, started off with Mr. Borden in his first year here at Lee. And those were heady times for the Lee Band program. And it was an event to name a successor to Dr. Long. I attended Auburn University later in the years, but I've always thought in terms of what the University of Alabama people went through when Bear Bryant retired, and who is going to replace the Bear? Well, it was much the same thing, who is going to replace Dr. Long. And I tell you what, even as a youngster, I just couldn't believe that anyone would leave Lee High School to go down to Troy. But, that worked out pretty well for him there too, I must say. But the successor to Dr. Long is a distinction in and of itself. And I must say that having been in that program in those early years and then watched him continue throughout the time when I myself was directing high school band, I have great admiration for Mr. Borden and the things he accomplished in general, but specifically to that era. It's not only for myself an honor, but my wife Marlo was in the band and got to know the Bordens fairly well. They're doing some babysitting for their children. Not that she snooped around or anything, but you learn some things about people when you babysit their kids. And, so all that can stay as close as it needs to. But she thinks a lot of the Bordens, and I have to introduce not only Mr. Borden, but his wife Martha. It's so nice to see you and have you here. Both their children, Jennifer and Mark, Marlo became very fond of them, and I'm sure a lot of the other band students during that era felt the same way. There was an era, it was alluded to earlier, the Hammett family, that we all know of their legacy during the long years, perhaps. Well, there was another family that became prominent during the Borden years, and that was the Borden family. There was not only the director, but three brothers that went through the band, and Mr. Borden had the privilege, I'm sure, but sometimes perhaps consternation of directing his own brothers in various capacities of leadership in the band program, Ruffin, Dave, and Lee. Did I see that Dave is a school board member now? I thought I read that in the newspaper last night. Well, we're in pretty good hands if that's the case. I have to say, as a band director, Dr. Long and Mr. Borden, you both played a role in my life and my development. I didn't intend to be a band director, but it's turned out that way. I grew up within sight of Lee High School. Many of you did, I imagine. I grew up on the corner of Ann Street and Spann Place. And I'm quite certain that my first memories, or my first exposure, even pretty through memory, of any band music was the Lee High School band practicing out here on the field. My boyhood home is still there. The historic marker is not up yet, but I'm sure you have it. And I can remember standing in the front yard and watching the Lee band rehearsals. That was the Johnny Long band, and I remember they used to do the big, all this fast marching and coming out, and it was a dirt field and everything. And I used to love to watch the dust billow up, until all you could see was the sousaphone bells above this cloud of dust. Watching one day, and they started coming out, and one of those bells. I don't know if the person who was playing it on that occasion is here, but it bit the dust. And I can say, Mr. Darby, you know, you said they all had top quality instruments, and most of them were con. But by the time Mr. Borden got around to being band director, there used to be top quality instruments. I did have a con 8D horn. I'm a horn player. And it one time was a good instrument. But my friend Mike Wilson back there was playing on an 8D. The bell was held on with white athletic tape all the way around. You know, and my 8D, the trigger was so sharp, worn down from years of practice, no doubt, that when I was a senior, I went to try out for All-State and went in the room. There was a bunch of band directors sitting in there listening to me play, and Mr. Borden had showed me what I ought to do. Went in there and sat down, and they started looking at my horn. Whoa, boy. And so one of them came over and said, "Here, let me see that." They couldn't believe I was going to get a sound out of this instrument. And I said, as I handed it to him, "Be careful." Well, they all laughed just like that too, but let me tell you, that guy cut his thumb on my trigger, and the rest of that whole All-State tryout thing, he walked around with his handkerchief around his thumb going like this. But those were the funny times that we choose to remember. Actually, it was a really, really good time to be in the band. A band at Lee was a big thing. It was a big thing, and rightly so. The founding work that went on by Dr. Long was followed by some very, very good band directing by Mr. Borden. Of course, the marching band was still a very popular thing, but there was the late 60s when I was here, 67 through 70, was a pivotal time in the development of band literature. I mean, it starts out like a band director, I guess, but we played some cutting-edge concert band repertoire in those years, and I'm really thankful to Mr. Borden for exposing us to the works that were out front and taking the concert band idiom to where it is today, really. Persichetti, Nellie Bell, Mailman, Macbeth, all of those composers, they're kind of fading into memory now for some students, or some current band students, but they laid the groundwork for what has to come for Robert W. Smith, and would come along later, and we would not be where we are as an idiom, musicians working within an idiom, had it not been for those composers of that era. And Mr. Borden brought that music to us. We couldn't have chosen it on our own. It had to be a good leadership from a good director like Mr. Borden. Of course, we still played the classic repertoire, the transcriptions, and you all remember probably really the hearing, maybe some of you for the first time, many of us for the first time hearing great orchestral works transcribed for band and playing those. When I was here as a high school student, Dr. Long came and conducted Elsa's Procession on a concert, and really the first time I'd heard the work. And of course we come along later in my studies to value it as within the context of Wagnerian opera. But it was the beginning of my education, and I could go on and on and on about how all that's played out in my personal career. But it was a wonderful experience, and I'm sure all of you would agree. And I just have to commend Mr. Borden on taking on, first of all, being willing to say, okay, I will do it. I will follow the legend. And that had to be kind of daunting in and of itself. But then to do it with class and determination and fervor and heartfelt sincerity for the musical and educational well-being of his students. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce my band director, the second band director at Lee High School, Tom Borden.
Probably too smart to be a band director, but he just turned out out to be a wonderful one. It's so good to see all of you. It's so good to be here. And Michael, I think we all owe you a real debt of gratitude for putting this together. I've been thinking a lot over the last couple of weeks about what I was going to say. And one thing that keeps coming through my mind is that all of us, everybody in this room and everybody who's not here, all of us have contributed to what we are so proud of about this band. I think that's just really terrific. Another thing that I've thought about is all of the family groups that have come through and how many marriages have begun in this organization. There's a real good example of that right here at this table, of course. We all know the Hammonds. I had the privilege of being in the band with Bill and Ken. I remember vividly the first rehearsal I attended, and Willie was sitting there in the trumpet section before we started playing the New Colonial March. And those of you who played it know that there's a trumpet call at the very beginning that's just a bear to play. And Willie was playing it perfectly over and over and over. And I knew right then that I was in the presence of something pretty special. Later, as a teacher, I had a jazz ensemble here. And one of the highlights of every year for those children was to have Bill come in and sit in with us. If you've never heard Willie Hammett play jazz trumpet, you just haven't lived. He's a wonderful player, and the whole Hammett family has been terrific. Then, of course, there's so many other families, including the Borden family. Not only my brothers, but my two children came through the program, and I've always been real proud of that. They were in Mr. Brooks' band. It was a real privilege to be at Lee High School from 1965 to 1980 as a teacher. Very strong administration, wonderful faculty, wonderful students, just a delight to teach. And I left in 1980 for what I thought were real good reasons, but very shortly began to wonder if I hadn't made a mistake. And Alan, I'll tell you, I've told you this before, but there were several times in the next 2 years that I picked up the phone to call you and ask you if I could have my job back. There were probably times that if he had answered that call, he would have said yes. But it turned out for the best for all of us. I remember, as some of you do, I'm sure Bill and Ken and Lamar and Alan Mitchell and Dale and some of the rest of from our era, when we were here, there was no auditorium or band room. Our rehearsal facility was downstairs where the ROTC class is now. And we could hear basketballs bouncing on the gym floor during rehearsal. But every morning, we would congregate out on that asphalt, and the parking area back there was officially known as the band parking lot. And it was like a scene out of Grease. I mean, you know, there were blue jeans, t-shirts, some of the people with cigarettes stuck up in the shoulder of the t-shirt. But the people in that group were the real connoisseurs, could tell when Lamar May came down the street and shifted into second and turned right on the Mallory. We could all tell Lamar's muffler from Don Worthington's muffler, from Ken Pouncey's muffler, you know, it was that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. These years that we spent here were very intense, very happy years, and we will all always remember them forever. And some of us are lucky enough to have had an extended stay, like me, like Dennis Johnson, like Michael, who've come back to teach. And then, of course, there's some others who extended their stays in other ways on the front table. Thanks again, Michael, for doing this. Thank all of you for coming, and please, if I have not had a chance to speak to you and I taught you or went to school with you, I would love to speak to you before we leave. But thank you all for coming, and thank you, Dr. Long, for being here. It means so much to all of us.
First thing, and I'm a little too young for the Long era, but I definitely heard the Borden era. And it was at that point I made my decision that someday I was going to come to school here, the Lord willing. I wasn't going to be zoned for Jeff Davis.
But Millie's son, Ben, who first time I'd met tonight, handsome, good-looking kid. He was a drum major here in 1987. And Ben, you're in the Mobile area, is that correct? And we're glad to have you here tonight. And I never will forget what Alan Brooks said to Ben the first time he met him. If I were you, son, I'd sue your parents. Come on up, Ben. Ben Curry.
I want to start off by saying I've seen a couple of the speakers up here have notes. I got a call Wednesday, Michael asking if I could speak and introduce Alan Brooks, and I said, yeah, I'll be glad to. He goes, good, because you're in the program. So the past couple days I've been looking over old photos and just trying to remember as much as I possibly could about the 80s, and remembering a lot of things I really wanted to forget. Like, I look over at Donnie, and we actually had mullets at one time. Yeah, that was, if you can look at Donnie and imagine that. In school year of 1984 and 1985, I was in my last year at Capitol Heights Junior High, and I was doing my last concert as the first year clarinet player there. And that was the first time I can remember actually meeting Alan. He had been a friend of my father's, and for years they had played together professionally on the side, and they had known each other. But it was the first time I actually got to really meet him and talk with him. And before I gotta set the stage for this. I couldn't find a red blazer. Unless you were actually in a professional setting where we were at a competition where he was trying to be really look professional, you did not see this man go anywhere without one of these hats on. And then the red blazer. But Alan came up to me after the concert and, told me, of course, just like whether they actually liked it or not, how much he enjoyed the performance. And I knew I was getting ready to come to lead the next year. And said, Ben, how would you like to be a baritone player? I was like, well, I'm a clarinet player. He was like, I don't play baritone. He's like, well, your dad does. Well, how can you argue with that? So in the next couple of weeks, I got my dad to teach me how to play baritone, and I switched from woodwind to brass and went back and forth. And it was one of the best things I ever did in my life. He pushed me to learn more things. In my 2 years that I played underneath him, he, of course, took off. Before I got to finish with him, he goes up to Birmingham somewhere to some, hotty-toddy school up there. But I learned a lot, and the 3 years I was here at Lee are some of the best years that I can remember. We had some of the great times. I mean, one of the highest points in my musical life, I believe, has got to be this little guy right here. That I think means a lot to us for them to come up and give that to us and give us the trip back. And also on a side note, I want to thank Mr. Darby for all those top-notch, for those Class A instruments he sold to Dr. Long. They were still top-notch in the mid-'80s also. We also, another thing too, my father, who graduated with Rennie Mills and all those guys, he is still playing the horn from Lee High School. Well, close, somehow it was probably one of those instruments that he sold to Dr. Long. It made it back to Capitol Music for some reason, and they found it up in the attic. It was a double-barreled euphonium that has lost one of its barrels. And but he's still playing that horn. And my life was really, I hate to say the word affected, but I can't. So indirectly and directly affected by Lee High School, even before I actually came to Lee High School, where not only did I get to play underneath Alan Brooks, but I got to play underneath Dennis Johnson, who's not here tonight, and everyone called Dr. Long the father. Well, to me, that'd be the same thing as he was the grandfather. I grew up knowing Dr. Long very, very well. And so it's been an honor and a privilege to be able to come up here and introduce Alan. And
Got one arm in and it fell off. I still got the blue hat that goes just like that. I still use it all the time. It's kind of grown back here. Well, first of all, I'm very nervous because following these two great gentlemen, not only up here, but following them as band director, I had to write my notes out. And I'm going to have to read it to you, so I hope you'll bear with me, okay? First of all, I'd like to thank Michael for setting all this up. This had to be a tremendous task, and all the people that helped him. And I think giving him another round of applause is still not enough. I'll try to read as fast as I can, okay? It was a warm, sunny day around the 1st of June in 1980. I left Goodwin Junior High, and I was headed over to Lee High School with a couple of boxes of teaching material. I walked into the Lee Band room as I usually did, and I looked around at the room and thought how wonderful this facility was. I knocked on the office door. Mr. Borden answered the door and invited me in. He was gathering up a few things and was getting ready to leave. As usual, I had a million questions to ask him about the Lee Band. I know he must have gotten tired of listening or asking all these questions about the schools. He suggested I watch some drum corps tapes and copy some of the show designs. So I began to watch drum corps tapes and start all over the show. This time the show took on a more exciting look, and I learned a very valuable lesson about the Lee Band. One of the things that I noticed is, have you ever noticed when you refer to the Lee Band, it's always the Lee Band. It is not the band at Lee High School. It's not one of the high school bands in Montgomery. It's always referred to as the Lee Band. Obviously, that didn't happen overnight. While I was still in high school, and I'm a Yankee, I'm from Decatur, Alabama,
Many of you kind of guessed that by my accent. But anyway, I'd heard about the Lee Band even when I was in high school. It turns out that my band director in high school and Dr. Long were very close friends. I think y'all might even attended school together. Yeah. And so he, kind of informed me a little bit about some of the bands around the state. When I attended the University of Alabama and became part of the $1 Million Band, that I met several Lee Band graduates, and they had a certain air of distinction about them that made you wish that you had been a member of the Lee Band. And by the way, Michael, I don't like being referred to as the only band director that didn't graduate from Robert E. Lee. Yeah, I might not have gone to high school here, but I feel that I received a significant part of my music education right here. So I think that qualifies me as a Robert E. Lee graduate, don't you think? I had about 9 hours left, and I was teaching on an emergency teaching certificate, and I went to Carver High School first. And I met Tom Borden, and I met George Hammond, and they were fantastic friends and fantastic mentors. Both of them just came over and told me real quickly that, if you're going to take this band to the district contest, you got to do this, this, and this. And so immediately I started taking notes, and the rehearsals for the next 2 weeks were exactly what these guys had told me. I watched Tom work with the Lee Band and realized what a dedicated and smart person he is. George, too. When I wrote this, I didn't realize George was going to be standing about 10 feet away from me. But both you guys are a big part of my life. I wanted to be just like him and be just as smart, but obviously I can't have everything. So, I just tried to do the best I could. I've talked to Tom and George both countless hours about music education, and in particular how to teach young students how to be good musicians. Tom shared with me the knowledge that he'd gained from Dr. Long, from Mr. Yale Ellis, and from Colonel Butler at the University of Alabama. I owe so much to Tom for not only the information about band directing, but the friendship and the many good decisions he helped me make. In the fall of 1980, I had a surprise visit from the grandfather, or the father. In my case, it was the father. In Ben's case, the grandfather, Dr. Johnny Long. He and I visited for a while, and we discussed the Lee Band, its history, and its future. In a very short while, I began to realize how much the Lee Band meant to Dr.